Thanks so much, Kate. Thanks again for being here, everybody. We always appreciate your time. It's nice to see some familiar faces, and I know we might have some more folks joining. I'm Lauren Lestramo Allen. I'm with SUNY Empire State University and the Center for Autism Advocacy, Research, Education, and Supports, or CARES there. I'm going to turn it over to the CARES director and my colleague, Dr. Noor Sayed, to say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Lauren, for just welcoming me. I'm Noor, and I work with Lauren at CARES. And I'm so excited to just be here cheering you all on. And thank you for everyone for joining today or previously. CARES just wants to take a moment to thank sincerely Kate. Our work with you, I know Lauren has expressed it, but it's really been such a joy this past year. And the two of you at Empire State Cares and the Saratoga Springs Public Library are doing some really incredible work for the community. So thank you sincerely for leading this. We are so proud to be in collaboration with you. And thanks to everyone for their input, their insights. I'm so excited for today's panel. So nice to be here.
Thanks, Noor. All right, and we can do just quick introduction, panelists. If you just want to say your name and hello, and then we'll let you give a bigger introduction later when we kick off the panel. Eric, do you mind going first?
Hello everyone. My name is Eric and I'm a graduate from Manhattanville College. I majored in global and international studies and I minored in philosophy and French. I've been volunteering currently at the New York Common Pantry and the Mexican Coalition, and I'm hoping to get a job soon.
Thank you, Eric. Awesome. Thanks again for being here and being a part of the series. Andrew, we'll go to you next.
All right. Hi everyone. I hope everyone can hear me, and hopefully everyone sees. I posted a link on the everyone chat on my website. I work as a teacher assistant over at Focus Center for Autism Connecticut. I do like a side freelance website where I do a lot of different services, including public speaking for autism providers and other organizations out in the East Coast and also nationwide on the virtual sense. I've also worked with Anderson. I'm part of not just their consultation team, but on their ECHO team. So I'm excited here to talk about college. I was out the last time out, the last session. I can't speak today. Bit distracted by my doggo who decided it was a good idea to have one lick of my coffee. I had to yell at him a bit and put him in a timeout corner for a few minutes. He didn't know a lot, just a lick, but I think he finally went for me. So my student's just gonna have a heck of a laugh. And also thank you. Also thank you to the person who posted my website there. Thanks. But yeah, excited to be back here again.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for being here. Tell your puppy thanks for joining us also. Ryan, are you able to say hello and just introduce yourself briefly?
Hello, my name is Ryan. I am a alumni from Empire State University, and I have my bachelor's in science, mathematics, and technology and information technology. And I'm passionate about supporting and advocating for people with disabilities and people in general, and getting their needs met and supporting them to have a good, organized life.
Thank you, Ryan. Again, thanks so much for being here and being a part of this. All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead
Right.
and just dive in. Like always, we kind of start with a little bit of background on the topic. And so today's topic, we're really focusing. Oh, I think I opened the wrong slides, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing and get the right ones. Here we go. We like to start with a little bit of background on the topic, and then we'll shift into our panel. So we're talking about academic success today, and certainly we're going to make this a conversation that's a little bit bigger than academics as well. So we're excited about that. As always, this is a safe space, and like Kate mentioned, although we're recording, we will stop the recording. So feel free if you prefer to ask questions or share your experiences. You can certainly do that after the recording stops, and you're also welcome to do it in the chat. The chat won't be, made available with the recording. And engage however you like. If you want your camera on, fine. If you want your camera off, totally fine. And again, please, if you want to share feedback, do it in the chat, or you can unmute your mic, whatever works best for you. We're just really appreciative you're here. All right, so We are on the third session of our Neurodivergent in College series. And then please save the date. Our last session of this series will happen in 2 weeks on June 18th. We're going to be talking about health and social emotional well-being. If you've registered for this event, you will automatically get information about the next event. You registered for the series, so you'll get that information, and it's the same Zoom calendar link. I put the direct URL in the chat, but this is also if you want to hold up your phone and take a picture, this QR code will take you to a folder that's full of the slides and just the resources from all the different events. And then we're going to compile some additional resources from today's event in there, and you'll get, as Kate sends out an email to everybody who attended and registered, we'll have even more information in there at that time. All right, so we're going to do a quick overview, some background, and then we'll shift into the panel. We just wanted to start, so we're talking about academic success, but we really wanted to highlight that a really big part of that is just kind of taking care of you generally, right? So thinking about, first, just you and being included and feeling like you have a sense of belonging and a community at your, within your university or college experience. And I think, we thought it was really helpful to highlight the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network notes that inclusion in and of itself is a form of success, right? So we don't want to think about the only ways that success is measured as your grades and those sorts of things, right? Again, Asan really notes that inclusion, self-determination, and satisfaction are often more important outcomes than, retention and graduation or academic achievement. And when inclusion works, that sense of belonging is fostered, right? You feel like you have a place, you feel like you have kind of a community and people that care about you and lift you up. Belonging is kind of getting at that feeling of being safe and being respected by others in your community and being able to be your authentic self. And within higher ed, it really gets at that perception that you are valued and respected within that college and university community. And we really kind of pursue belonging and inclusivity by actions the university can take to promote inclusivity, your own involvement with different groups, for example, extracurricular groups and those sorts of things, as well as just all the relationships and the people that you have those support systems with. All those things together kind of contribute to that sense of belonging. So just take a minute and kind of think to yourself, what does academic success mean to you? The panel is going to talk about this more. And feel free, if you'd like to share it in the chat, we would certainly welcome that as well, but no pressure. Some common things people will say, although again, we want to highlight that it's much broader than this, right? Maybe getting passing grades on assignments, passing classes, keeping a certain grade point average or GPA, getting the degree that you want, for example. Those are all things that might come to mind. And we wanted to highlight, just all the pieces that go into just one of those. And so to start thinking about earning a passing grade on an assignment, right? There's many components within that process. So going to class, whether in person or online, engaging with those class materials, maybe that's watching lectures, reading, taking notes, managing the timelines to complete those assignments, the attention to detail to ensure that those assignments meet the instructor's expectations, right? They align to those rubrics, and then getting those assignments submitted, right? Maybe you have them done, but getting them submitted into that learning management system by the deadline, right? And that doesn't get into all those other pieces that are required, right? Like just getting to class, paying your bills so that your lights and your internet stay on and those sorts of things. So there's certainly a lot of pieces that contribute to that success, right? So our colleague, Dan McCrae, graciously shared a lot of these tips. And Dan McCrae is integral to the academic support team at SUNY Empire State University. And so some of the tips we just wanted to focus on briefly are getting organized and then having that support system. So getting organized and planning, just thinking about how to be strategic about that, right? So having an identified or an organized workspace that's quiet or has whatever sounds present. Maybe you like white noise, maybe you like classical music, what have you. It's free of distractions, right? Maybe it doesn't have, a TV or something like that. Access to the things that you need to complete your work, right? Books, laptop, syllabus, calendar, planner, and so forth. Establishing a routine, we'll talk more about that. Identifying a system that keeps you organized, right? Maybe that's you like a physical calendar or planner. Maybe you want to use Google Calendar. Maybe having prioritized to-do lists. There are many apps on your phone that can help. And you want to think about course due dates and assignment due dates, but you also want to think about those university semester or term dates, for example, right? Maybe like add drop, when you need to register, when you need to pay your bills for classes and so forth. Thinking about, I love this tip from Dan, right? So whether you like a physical folder or binder or whether you like a digital one, having a binder or an electronic folder kind of dedicated to just all your materials for a given class, right? And so maybe that's going to include your syllabus and notes that you take and a schedule, rubrics, different, assignment instructions, maybe readings if you like to kind of read your required readings that way. But that way you're kind of organized and you maybe have a folder or a binder for your different classes. And always that recommendation, right? Even if you're online, treat those online classes the way that you might treat an in-person class, right? Where if you're engaging in a lecture, you're watching it live or you're watching it recorded, take notes, do the same things you would maybe do if you were sitting in the class. Thinking about that routine and really having a study plan as part of your routine. You want to think about it as like, how can I integrate classwork every day, right? What amount of time each day allows me to get the work done that I need to, and that works for my life with all the other things I need to do. The recommendation always, from Dan McRae is to, study when you're most alert, right? So if you feel really tired in the afternoon or in the evening, plan to have that time blocked off in your earlier part of your day to study and read and do those sorts of things. Studying for your most difficult courses first, setting smaller goals and deadlines and rewarding yourself when you complete them. I'm going to read, pages 20 through 40 today. And then maybe you're rewarding yourself with going for a nice walk or doing something that you really enjoy, right? Maybe knitting. Studying in short time blocks, right? So don't plan to study for 2 hours straight, but identify what amount of time works for you. Is it 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? And then when you're done with that, planning to have that break and whatever amount of break, you need that allows you to still get your work done. Is that 5 minutes break, 10-minute break? And I love this study that Dan talks about. So overcoming the avoid, right? It's like always all of our inclination to avoid things that we feel might be really hard or we kind of don't want to do. And they highlight research that notes, unpleasant tasks or things that we think are hard activate pain centers in our brain. And our brain then wants to stop that pain. So we might avoid or procrastinate to stop that, right? So they also note, instead of avoiding or procrastinating, just starting that task can deactivate that activation, right? And then also noting that you are 2 to 3 times more likely to accomplish a goal when you do so with a simple or a concrete plan. And so what can that look like? It could take, it doesn't have to take this shape, but it could come in a lot of different forms. But what do I need to accomplish, right? Maybe that's, I need to do an annotated bibliography for my English 110 class. When will I do it, right? I'm gonna try to identify research articles, at least 3 of them on Thursday at 6 p.m., right? Where will I do it? I'm going to work in my dedicated office space at my house, or I'm going to work at the library. How will I do it, right? And kind of identifying your plan of how you're going to approach that assignment. And then who and or what will help me do that. I'm going to meet with my study coach. I'm going to meet with a family member. I'm going to use my notes from my class last term that will help me. Just making that plan. And then being specific, right? So kind of these examples of, is it better to make a plan that says on Monday, I'm going to read my American history notes, or on Monday at 8:30 a.m., I'm going to read my American history chapter 1 through 2 notes, right? You can see how the bottom example there gives you a lot more detail and is much more specific so that you can really evaluate whether you did what you set out to do. And the same is true for the next one, right? Which one's better? From 6 to 8 p.m., I'm going to write a 4-page paper, or 6 to 6:30 p.m., I'm going to draft an outline of my history paper. Then from 6:30 to 8, I'm going to write the rough draft. You can see how the second one gives you, again, more details of how to approach that plan. And then just benefits, right? So why do we need to do this? Higher grades in online courses, and this is going to be true for in-person courses, are really predicted by time management. So your scheduling, your planning, your budgeting study time, as well as your effort regulation, which these authors noted as your ability to kind of manage all the things you need to do for your classwork, even when things are challenging and obstacles may present. And next is just quickly thinking about those support systems. What are the supports that really help you, or the services that are helpful? You can think, who are the people that I have to help me in my English class? Who are the people that I have to help me in my psychology class, for example? Thinking about who's supportive to you for your mental health or your physical health. Who's supportive to you? What services help you with your independent living? And then the fun stuff, right? Like, who do you have fun with? Who helps you feel better after a tough day? How do you connect with these folks? And how do you reach out to them if you need them? But how do you have just kind of an ongoing connection and, opportunity to interact and communicate with them? Having those support systems is just really integral, right? But overall, it's really about more than just the academics. And you're going to hear a little bit about that this time. And then our next session on June 18th is about, again, health and social emotional well-being. So we'll really complement the conversation tonight on academics. With that, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn it over to our amazing panel. Let me get y'all pinned really quickly. Okay, Andrew. All right. Excellent. Thanks again, panelists. We're so excited to learn from you as always. We'd love to start with just the question that we kind of talked about earlier. What does academic success kind of mean or look like to you? Eric, would you mind kicking us off on that one?
Academic success means to me is completing assignments in a correct way, asking for help with material in class, such as through tutoring, and working with your learning specialists and the academic resource center,
Awesome.
and attending your professor's office hours.
Those are excellent. Yeah, excellent things you can do and excellent ways to measure success. Thanks so much, Eric. Andrew, I'll go to you next.
Oh, a lot of different ways. So let's see how I come up with this, as I've had half of my non-dog licked coffee this time around. I'm not gonna live it down. But there's a lot of different ways. And then while my colleague went through the in-person one, I guess I should make it more interesting and go approach this with the online side, because I'm currently at an online school. And it's similar, it uses what they call it Blackboard in Connecticut, which is like discussion posts and everything. That's where all the assignments are there. And one of the ways success and over there is emailing, and then something some professors like to text. It took me a while to figure that was kind of weird, but it was kind of handy in one of my classes. Just be like, hey, what does this mean on the paper? So it was like being able to reach out by call, texting, and then one of the other things that they have is a virtual library, which has all like the different databases. I think one of them was like I think it was Psych Central or Psych something. And there's also I also technically use ResearchGate as well, just to kind of peek at like specific studies. And sometimes they may have some free PDF of the studies that you actually need to use on your papers. Not all of them do, and some are not trapped by money. But but once you kind of find the paid tools that have to search for those papers in the bachelor's program for psych, so there's a lot of that. And then outside of that is virtual library is also there's a virtual tutoring one, and it used to be an issue at my school where it's only 8 hours, but now it's unlimited. It's kind of mostly unlimited, which is a lot more handy. And then you also have your advisors and your like key people that you talk to for accommodations. And that, and also just like recommendations for classes because I have to deal with 8 week courses and I don't recommend the 8 week structure for online unless you have really good executive functioning, like level of like 100 if you want to make this to like a role playing game, like that sort of level for executive function because a lot more intensive. So as executive function is another one you could kind of detail for academic success. And to kind of for the sake of making sure there's enough time, the next person can go. And it looks like I kind of answered the second potential question. So Lauren, you can take back.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, those are all incredibly helpful, supports and strategies to think about. And you're right, Andrew. You kind of segued us to the next question. We wanted to just think about learn a little bit more about how all of you have engaged in coursework. Have you attended, college or university online, in person, hybrid, or all of the above? And Andrew, you kind of shared that. Ryan, would you like to tell us a little bit more about how you've attended college and how you chose that method? And Ryan, you might be, oh, there you go.
I was muted. So I've attended both in-person college and online college. When I attended in-person college, I attended a small in-person college with about 20 to a classroom, and there was some nice benefits to that, just like a small high school. So they had closer professor interaction. And then I did online college, and my experience depended on the form of the class and really how the professors went about doing their class and how prepared they were for it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so nice to kind of be able to. I feel like especially with COVID, a lot of people had the opportunity to experience in person as well as online and get an opportunity to try it out and see if it was a fit for you. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Eric, do you want to share a little bit about whether you attended college online, in person, and so forth, and how you made that decision?
Well, I attended college through both in person and online due to the pandemic. For the first 2 years of college and the first half of my junior year, I intended in person, but then the pandemic happened and everyone was told to go back home. And then I started taking online classes. So I would say my college experience was definitely a bit messy, um, yeah, and unusual compared to the normal uh standard college experience with staying uh living on campus for 4 years or people that commute from home to go to college, like in the CUNY system.
Mhm.
So I would say my college experience was unique, but I still graduated in 4 years, and I'm proud of that.
That's great, Eric. Yeah, and I think highlighting all the different ways that people do college, right? Like it just looks different for everybody. And yeah, certainly you had a different experience because of the pandemic, as along with many others. But how did that kind of contribute to you getting an opportunity to try out more online methods, and how might that help you in your career? Ryan, I see your hands up, please.
So we've was it you, Eric, you're talking about having like a messy experience. I've had some of that as well. Sometimes it can take a while for professors to get back to emails, but also we have online platforms to get onto for our classes. I've had times before where the online content isn't very organized, the schedule isn't always set up, and the 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 syllabus isn't always set up, and everything isn't always set up so we know what we're supposed to do, and that could be real messy. When you're starting to do your first week of college, you want to like get started on everything, and you could start running behind if you don't know what to do and everything's not upright, so you can get started. We shouldn't have to go and wait on professors till the second or third week to have everything organized. I think they should be prepared. So, what would you have to say about that?
I see. Thank you for sharing that, Ryan. And I see Andrew has his hand up. Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, was Eric supposed to respond? Because I can wait until Eric responds to mine. Unless
Okay, I
unless I
think you're good.
misinterpret that. Okay, just want to make sure. I don't want to. I don't like skipping people, so I just want to make sure. But yeah, absolutely. And I was blessed with Charter Oak. They over there in Connecticut, that they have everything ahead of time. There might be one to two changes. They have a service that you could look at, and one of the neat things, at least in my school, at least a little bit of a blessing, is that they allow access full days before the course begins. If you know me, I'll try to get to like weeks one or two all done, just so it takes stress off me. And this semester is actually the most kind of extreme I've took it. Let's just say I didn't want to deal with two summer classes. There'll be a summer class coming up by the end of next week. Let's just say I'm doing early child education, and I already did all the coursework. I do not want to deal with two 8 week classes all at once, because usually I do it by term one and then term two, like a course and then a course in term two. Just makes my life way easy. And because I do traveling from time to time, and I work 30 hours and also raising a puppy for the time being, it just be too much for me, be way too much. So I took a more extreme term, just so I don't have to deal with that for the summer. Like, no, thank you.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think Andrew and Ryan, what you both kind of shared highlights how helpful it is when there's clear expectations and clear due dates and all those sorts of things. So it sounds like there's a lot that the instructor or the institution that can do to really kind of support that success. And that's, I think, brings us really nicely to our next question. And Eric, if you would mind just highlighting some of the major differences that you experienced as, you know, when you moved from high school class to college or university class.
Well, I would say the major differences between high school classes and university classes is that high school classes are very light in terms of material. Uh, you you basically do small amounts of work in high school classes, while in university classes you have to spend a lot of time outside doing assignments or reviewing the material. So in university classes, you're more independent.
Those are two really great points, Eric. So I think it sounds like, you know, in high school, you're in class and most of the work happens in class. But it sounds like you're saying in college, most of the work really happens outside of those class times, right?
Yes.
That's really helpful. And you noted being independent, right? So it sounds like the student has to manage a lot more of the assignments and when they're due and what to do versus having that teacher to maybe provide a little more support. Do you agree with that summary?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful, Eric. And I think our next kind of question we've already touched on a little bit, right? So if you could share two things that were the most challenging and two things that were the most helpful in your coursework. And so, Andrew, you kind of noted the 8 week coursework being really challenging, but I'd love to hear what you would identify as being really helpful.
Yeah, I realized I was looking at it. I just realized I didn't actually list two things. So the
One is
two
great.
things. Okay, 8 week because like I mentioned, a 8 week courses, and if you take a look and do search it up, try to look, and you could like say intro to psychology or psychology 101, and you kind of see how their classes work, and it's like 8 weeks, everything's streamlined. Sometimes it'd be like two chapters per week, or sometimes I don't know how they do this, but three chapters of 1 week.
Yeah.
Just because they had to squeeze it in 8 weeks. Like I was looking at one of my upcoming textbooks, and I was like, there's like no textbook reading for week 7 and 8. They could make that free chapter week. They could just take one of the chapters and then put it in like week 7. Just sometimes they try to squeeze like everything in there. As I mentioned, I also mentioned kind of backtracking a little bit. Again, a lot of executive functions, so you have to really get a schedule and like be really on top of it. And and I can answer this both. I used to work full time when I was doing some of these classes. I can answer by part time. It just whenever I have 10 and if I can multitask and like write notes and say I'm working, I kind of did that was pretty helpful. Like, because if it was a video, I'd be able to kind of listen to it while at work and take a few notes. Isn't the worst. I don't really do that at my current job just because it'd be very hard to pull it off, especially some of my students tend to be hyperactive where I work at. So I'd be running around, rolling around with them as well. But pretty much like right after school ends, oh, my school job ends, I just head straight to doing schoolwork. Besides wearing my puppy out there, and there's pictures on my social media page if you want to see Sky in a non-coffee form.
That's
And
great.
yeah, so the schedule's like 3 to 11. Sometimes I stay up some nights up to 11-ish, just at least give me enough time. I'm gonna be taking it easy a little bit this week, just because I really did 8 week coursework within 2 to 3 weeks. And I don't recommend that. I just did because I knew I could pull it off, and it's on education, and figured I could handle it, and kind of at the moment. But yeah, schedule like each day, and then weekends if you don't have anything going on there, take advantage of those weekends. And then if you know the textbook ahead of time before class actually happens, if you can read it like a week or two at best, if the syllabus is that you can like print out online. Also really good. It also really good as long as you don't mind doing early textbooks. The steps you take for these type of classes. I can't say I'm a big fan, but I don't have a choice. And we'll see if I ever do a master's and see if I can go either way or hybrid. Because I do miss the kind of like the in-person classrooms. Even for, I will say, I like doing papers over tests. I just prefer doing papers. I feel like that's just a better use of my time. So, in my opinion.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Yeah, so it sounds like, again, kind of overcoming some of those challenges associated with time, just not having enough of it or not having enough good information, maybe from the instructor or what have you. But you kind of have overcome that by scheduling and being really thoughtful about your routine. It sounds like you really have made, like we were talking about before, you've really made school and completing your coursework part of your daily routine. And that's been really helpful. I think that's super helpful. And then I'm going to go to you, Ryan. Ryan, would you be able to share some of the things that you find to be most challenging? And then next we can go to the things that you found to be most helpful.
Yeah, sure. So I have trouble when professors don't really respond in the most timely manner. And going back earlier to about Andrew's experience here, yes, we also get like a week or so to be able to get into our classes early.
Mm.
But even with that happening, and you can go on to the online platform and it could still be a mess, even what they prepared, and then they go and organize it at the end of week 1 or week 2, and that can leave you behind. We kind of also get e-learning contracts thing we can get. It's on a certain part of our regular ESC website that's outside of our main platform.
Hmm.
But I could still have trouble when logging on to like the class and stuff a week before, and that the schedules can be messed up, or learning content could be missing, or like outdated links and all that.
Ugh.
Ryan, I think that's such a great point. It just highlights
Hmm.
how much the whole institution and instructors, right, play a really big part in through our preparation, making it a more inclusive and supportive environment, right? Um, and when that's not present, right, how that can really impact students. And then students have to kind of overcome that as a challenge. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
Um,
am I echoing a little bit?
No,
I don't
Tim,
think
is the
so.
outside door open?
Okay. So
Would
I have a
you,
system set
Ryan?
up where I can hear myself. It's like a music setup, so I didn't know if it might have been.
No, no, I think we hear you pretty clearly. Ryan, are there any other things that you find to be really challenging that happen in, your classes or that instructors do? Or did you want to shift
Yeah,
into the
so
things that are really helpful?
we'll get there. So I also don't like it when professors don't really have any office hours. Sometimes they'll just have like Wednesday evenings for 1 hour or 2 hours, and that will be for every single class that they have, and it's hard to get a hold of them. And also when everything is all on their online platform, but they don't really have discussion forums or none of that. It's hard to get a hold of them in email, and everything is just in text, which they might just take from other textbooks or other professors' classes. I like to have it where they may have videos of themselves, so they can have their own smart boards or chalkboards, and they get to explain it their own ways. I like to expect to have interaction from my own professor too, and get to learn from them and their guidance. Sometimes you can go and do your assignments and you get it graded, but you more get just the letter or number grade, but you expect it to, when you get graded, to get a response of how you can make it better or like
Yeah.
what they like about it, and that doesn't always happen. So,
That's really helpful,
yeah.
Ryan. So it sounds like you really like when there's kind of, instructor accessibility, right? Like you can get a hold of them, you can interact with them, you can get your questions answered, as well as when maybe they're, recording their lectures so that you have that information to supplement maybe your reading or other assignments. I think those are really great points, I think, for anybody who's teaching to consider. How have you kind of gotten, I see your dog. Hi, Andrew's
Sorry.
dog. How have you kind of gotten a hold of your instructors for additional help, maybe when they haven't been as accessible as you would have liked?
So there's different offices here that you could help it out. I think it's a great thing to be in touch with your mentors. We have a educational planning course that helps you go plan out your course, but you could also meet up with them every so often, like once a month or something, though. You can update on how they're doing and all that. You can ask for advice like on the career or how you go about things, and they can also be an advocate for you and reach out for you if you need, for example, accommodation mat, such as you need a little bit more time for assignments sometimes, or whatever you can need, or if you need, one of the other problems I was mentioning out. And we also have the student office of student success, and we also have the office of accessibility and resources and services office. So you can just contact them like anytime you want, and there's always someone to help you, but you may also have some assigned people. I had Quran as Belle as the student success coach, and I'm sure you've heard of her. She's a really good one.
That's awesome,
So
Ryan. So it sounds
that
like
is,
when maybe there's some challenges in your courses or that you just feel like you need a little more help connecting with other offices and other people at your university has been like really helpful for getting additional supports. That's wonderful.
yes, and if you also want to get some advice to learn how to pursue things better and be more successful, I think that these panels are great, and we also have um a s- a s- a student conference. It's like we have professional development workshops and all that every year.
That's great, Ryan. I think that that kind of speaks to that point we were talking to, right? Like being doing well in your classes oftentimes can be really helped by just finding your community at school, right? And finding those other
Yeah,
people
it's
that can help you.
uh,
And
yeah,
that can
sorry
just
about
be, your
interrupting.
source of fun and help and all those sorts of things. So thank you, Ryan. That's really helpful. Eric, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
so
go
I
to
have one
you.
more thing.
Oh yeah, please go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, so it's all about the mentality and having a good support network. So so you can go and connect with people and you go and learn about time management, try and avoid procrastination, like just getting started, all kinds of things like that.
I love that. Yeah. So finding the people that you trust and who you have that relationship with who can really help you be as successful as possible. That's
Yes.
just great advice, Ryan. Thank you so much to everybody. Eric, I'm going to shift over to you for this next one. Just thinking about executive functioning specifically, right? So how we plan and organize and manage time and all those sorts of things. What supports and services and strategies did you find the most helpful so that you could kind of manage your time and plan and organize yourself in your classes?
One of the most helpful things I found that really help with managing my time and with assignments is the use of the calendar, s- such as, for example, during my senior year of college, I used the calendar to put plot down the due dates of my senior thesis paper, such as the second draft, and the the final draft, such as when are they due, uh, when I started, uh, each of those assignments, and that helped me a lot with managing my time.
I think that's such a great tip to kind of find that organizational system, like a planner that really works for you and can help you make those concrete plans that we were talking about. Yeah, that's awesome. Ryan, do you have anything else you wanted to kind of share related to supports and strategies to help with executive functioning?
Um, yeah, sure. Just give me a minute. I also had to wanted to connect to what Eric was saying. So they're talking about like going and having a calendar for your assignments. I was also wanted to talk about time management. I was also wondering if you've ever used like routine apps a little bit before, like you have a little thing at certain times, like drink water, take the dog for a walk or something. I also had some questions about how you usually go about doing the work. I've made some mistakes in my college before. It can be really stressful sometimes if you go and do really long shifts, like you can do at work sometimes like 8 to 10 hours, even a few days a week. I found it really nice to be able to try to do like maybe 4 or 5 hours, eliminate all the distractions and get all the harder stuff done first if you can. And go and do that just about every day of the week, like maybe 5, 6 days a week instead of doing like maybe 3 or 4 of like 8 or 10 hours. And then you can fit all your stuff in, that helps with your mental health, like taking care of your house and all that stuff. Versus doing so much school in one day and or a few days. Um, and then, yeah, sorry. I'll come back to other stuff I was saying. But would you like
Ryan, I
to
think
connect
that's
on that?
yeah, that's great. That's fabulous. That's great advice. And I think you also highlighted, I know when we spoke another time about you used Grammarly and you noted that you found Grammarly to be really helpful. If you wanted to share anything about that with the audience.
Yes, sure. So Grammarly is a professional writing assistant. It's great. It helps you with grammar, punctuation, spelling, and it can even help you with tone some to sound a lot more professional when you're writing papers and all that. Sometimes you don't really know like how you're gonna sound and stuff, and sometimes some people can try to use like really big words to be able to describe what you're trying to explain, but you don't really need all that. And you can go and try to use it to help you sound more professional, simple, and to go and make your paragraph shorter and all that and get right to the point.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for
So how,
expanding on that a little bit. Yeah, I feel like I know a lot of students who have reported, and I use Grammarly. I know a lot of your instructors use Grammarly, but so Grammarly and just other kind of tools. I know a lot of folks like to use speech to text or text to speech, right? So if they have a lot of assigned readings, they can get that software or use kind of a plugin that will read the article to them or read the chapter aloud to them and so forth. And I know, for example, our Office of Accessibility Resources and Services that you already mentioned, Ryan, is really helpful with kind of getting folks set up with that. So that's something else people can consider. And then Ryan, I loved how you noted just the planning and having that routine that allows you to have smaller chunks of work time, right? So to not have to cram it all into one day, but really having those smaller chunks of work time spread across the week, so that you have time to take care of yourself and those other things related to independent living. And that's kind of a perfect segue for us to a question kind of about independent living, right? Whenever we're thinking about academic success, we always want to kind of come back to all the other pieces that folks have to do to really kind of manage their life outside of school also, right? So many college students, will share that it isn't only the demands of classes, but it's really all those other things that can be different from your life when you were in high school, that make the transition to college difficult. So we'd love to hear, Andrew, if we can start with you, just kind of sharing your experience related to independent living and, you know, any tips you might have for the group.
I think everyone can still hear me. I have to like mute one, two times, and I hope Sky wasn't being distracting. Kind of showed up there and had to kind of climb on bed. So hopefully that wasn't a lot of trouble to anyone focusing on this wonderful chat. Independent living. Hopefully, any of my colleagues might have had the dorm experiences because technically, I don't have that experience. I kind of always took the bus over to this is for when I was back in community college, Manchester Community College. I took the bus there. And again, having that be able to get that transportation was a real lifesaver because technically I could have gone to there was a closer college, but the Manchester College has a disability program there. So I was like, oh, that just seems better fit for me. Even for it's called Tunx's here in Farmington, Connecticut, and it's very close to me. I could have just gone over there, but the other school had needs for me. One of the only issues that comes up busing is just timing because sometimes there was like very rare for me to be late for my classes, and for some reason, my required class had to be at 8 in the morning, and the
Yeah.
bus is one from 6:30 at my town. So so if that morning bus is super late and then going over there, it's gonna cause a couple of issues. And one time it was pretty late that I think I emailed the professor because there was free Wi-Fi on the bus. I think I emailed. I forgot what I did. I think it was that. I think I just explained that it was late, and luckily it was understanding. I don't know if other colleges are like that, but I didn't have the choice. It was before I started driving, so there's one of those things that you gotta do, and then just having that transportation access, and then I did Ubers for those unfortunate evening classes. Some buses didn't go at like 8 o'clock in my town, so I had forced to do Uber at a nearby hospital, which luckily at the time costed $10 or so. I can't imagine Ubers nowadays might be a little more than that, maybe. But I was able to have like a little system and worked with that. Hopefully that counts for independent living because I've never had a dorm experience, so I hope any of my colleagues may have that. But if not, that could be a good discussion for another day.
That's super helpful, Andrew. Yeah, and independent living, right? It's just all those things we need to do to kind of get through our daily life, right? So certainly getting to class is a great example of one of those, and all the different ways folks, have to, explore so that they can just get to class, right? Is kind of like that first step. Thank you for that. Ryan, I see your hand up, and then we'll go to Eric.
Yeah, so I had a couple more things on executive functioning, and then I wanted to connect it to the independent living, and I had maybe Andrew could elaborate on that, and maybe Eric could a little bit. So when it comes to executive functioning, there is all kinds of services. You can like get the services, you can use them. We talked about Grammarly, you can get tutoring and all of that. But I also like to think personally, what can I do myself that can help me be more successful in completing my coursework and submitting on my assignments on time? Maybe you can manage your time better or do something for health or mental health. What would you do to try to do that on your own?
I think that's
I
a.
can,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, such a
oh,
great
I'm sorry.
question.
I can let Ryan go first. That's all. I can always see his hand up, so I can go after him. Yep.
Oh, well, I was actually asking you. I wanted to see your perspective. I can elaborate on mine after. Do you have that off the top of their head, or I can try to go
Not
to
not in the
relative?
moment. I was gonna. Yeah, I have no problem when. You can go ahead. I'm patient, so sorry about that.
All right. So just give me a moment, because there's
Of course.
actually quite a few. So,
And then Ryan, let me know if we want, we can I can go to
oh
Eric.
no, we will. No way, I will. I'm prepared. I'll
Okay.
just give me a minute. Okay, so here we go. Personal strategies that support your learning. What can I do to help support learning on my own? So I would not really waste much time procrastinating or worrying. I'd just go and push myself to go and get started. And you might actually be surprised. Once you get started, you might actually enjoy seeing how it comes out and might inspire you to continue to work more. Have you guys experienced that before? Or have you done that before? And then I'll continue on my next ones. I would like to hear another perspective.
Andrew and Eric, did y'all want to comment on Ryan's question?
Erica, you can go.
Well, for me, um, I would say I mainly use t uh tutoring strategies and reading strategies t- uh to help
Oh,
me.
yeah, that's great before. Can I be more specific on what I'm asking real quick?
Okay, sure.
Okay, so like imagine you have a big assignment, like a big 10-page paper. It's got to be really scholarly and all that. You're worried about how it may come out. You really don't want to do it. So imagine you worry for a little while, but then you just think like, screw this, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then you go and start writing it, and then before you know it, you're on your first, second, third paper, and it's actually really quality, and then you're happy when it comes out. You get some dopamine hits. Then you just continue when you finish it, and then
Oh,
later you
oh.
go and get it back. It actually turns out pretty good. You get like a B plus, an A, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So have you ever experienced that before?
Well,
Or would that?
I I would say yes. I do feel really happy after getting uh a good feedback on my paper after writing it.
Thanks, Eric. Andrew, anything you wanted to add there?
Okay. I have a good example of this because I'm a type where I kind of hand write. I kind of take time to research kind of papers and everything. I kind of usually write down like a layout and then write down basic stuff like what was said in like the research, like the summaries and the discussions and all of that. And I had that because there was normal psychology. I did that one. Pretty sure it was abnormal psychology. I did that and I forced myself to not write an autism paper. Interesting enough, they had you like select a movie and then try to diagnose the character's problems. Yeah, it could be anything from substance use, like mental health conditions. And I decided to use Who Framed Roger Rabbit as my movie. I almost did Joker, but Joker's too cliched. I almost did on Sunset Beauregard, a classic movie there. But and the more I thought about it, I also I wanted to see Who Framed Roger Rabbit, so I kind of just spent a lot of time looking at assessments and I tried to make it realistic to 1940s, despite Toontown being a thing. And because I knew in that movie the main character had like a substance use one, so that kind of made it really convenient. So I was kind of already coming up with ideas. I was taking a lot of notes during the movie. It was kind of like figuring out a diagnosis, like observing, and then kind of making like a make believe interview. I kind of went a little too far, and I actually
Let
called the
me stop you
professor
for a
just for
second.
clarifications. I actually did really well on that. So I was on the right idea, and I used kind of a crazy but really really good movie as that. So my gut aided me really well.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, and everything. And Ryan, I'm gonna just bump us ahead because we're just about out of time. But I think that's such a great question that you asked, your colleagues, your panelists. And it sounds like Ryan, from what you shared, and then Eric and Andrew really kind of agreed, right? Just getting started might be
Yes.
the hardest part. And then once you get started, you can kind of get really interested and really do some great work. And some of that, you know, being really hesitant about getting started and concerned you might not do a good job kind of fades away. So just getting started might be the best first step. I think that's a really nice point. I'm going to close. I'm going to let I'm going to let Eric. Eric, did you want to share kind of any advice related to independent living in the college context before we kind of wrap up?
Um, I would say don't be afraid to ask for help, such as from the resident hall advisor or any of the staff, uh, or even going to counseling. Yeah, I would say that's very important for independent living.
Thanks so much, Eric. I think, yeah, such important points about all the different folks who can help you in different areas. So you highlighted counselor for mental health and just overall well-being, and maybe somebody, related to the resident's life experience. I think that's such important advice. And I appreciated all that all of you had to share kind of related to academics as well as like life outside of the academic piece. With that, I'm going to go ahead and just quickly share and wrap us up. So everybody, again, thank you for spending time with us during your very busy week in the evening. We hope to see you in 2 weeks for our last of this series. Again, just always a reminder, disability is diversity. We would welcome your feedback. This is just a really quick survey about this series, this session, as well as just what would you like more of from CARES or the library. So again, if you want to take your phone out, please, we welcome that. And then, as always, thanks from all the panelists and all of us at SUNY Empire and Saratoga Springs Public Library for joining us. And here is the link to our resources. And I'll turn it over to you, Kate.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was another great panel. It's always so insightful to hear from all of you. So I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone who joined us tonight. We will have this posted on our YouTube, so I'll send out that link as well as a link to the resources. And I'm going to stop the recording now. So if anyone wants to stick around and ask some questions, you're welcome to do that.